Welcome to Small Practice Support Information Session number 36. In this Law Society of Ireland recording, Darren Bowling talks to Justin Purcell about the Bank of Ireland Finance Scheme for members.
So welcome to everyone who's just joined us today. We're a Small Practice Information Session 36, and we're joined by Darren Bowling from Bank of Ireland Finance, who's a Senior Relationship Manager and manages the professional services team out of College Green. So he's going to give us a really deep insight into the specific Law Society offering that they have with Bank of Ireland, and then the wider offering and opportunities that are out there at the moment. So Darren, you're very welcome, and thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ask a question as we go along, we'll take them over the chat. So without much ado, I'll hand it over to you, Darren.
Okay, thank you, Justin. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all safe and well. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you all this afternoon. As Justin said, my name is Darren Bowling, and I'm a Senior Relationship Manager in Bank of Ireland Business Banking based in College Green. Just a bit of background, I've been in Bank of Ireland just over 5 years. Primarily based in College Green, but I've been in banking for near on 30 years now, both here in Ireland for the last 16 years and previously in the UK. As you can see, I'm in my new normal now, which means more time working from home and less time making the commute into the city centre, which I must admit I'm now missing immensely, especially since homeschooling's recommenced. Today, I'm just going to focus on some debt solutions that are available in the marketplace. I'll take you through the finance scheme that we have currently in partnership with the Law Society, and then secondly, I'd like to touch on two particular COVID-19 schemes that are currently being run in conjunction with the Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland, which we've done quite a lot of over the last year, and they're the COVID-19 Working Capital Loan Scheme and the COVID-19 Credit Guarantee Scheme. Well, as you all know, back in March 2020, life in Ireland changed very dramatically and very quickly. Well, undoubtedly, from a public health point of view, it was the correct decision. It's been but it has had a huge impact on the Irish economy, business community, and to be honest, everyone in general. For many businesses, strategic business plans have been focused on growth and expansion, turned into new plans of survival. We're focused on consolidation, protection, or indeed innovation to survive in a relatively new world. And central to all of this really is cash flow and working capital forecasting, planning that and planning the funding behind that. I suppose within days of the lockdown in March, the banking sector and Public of Ireland came together with the CBI and government stakeholders and agreed to the initial three-month payment break for businesses and personal customers. And that was followed by a subsequent 3-month payment break for businesses or personal customers that required it. That was a huge undertaking by everyone involved, to be perfectly honest. From working in banks over a number of years to get something like that in place, that quickly is a huge achievement. But it just does show you that we can be that agile when we want to be. There's other bits and pieces that have been put in place, like business account current fees were deferred for a period of time. Contactless card limits were increased to €50 to allow people to shop with more confidence. Merchant service providers also supported with a move from physical payment terminals to virtual e-com solutions, allowing restaurants to move to business models to takeaways or deliveries, that type of thing. From a BOI point of view, from our own point of view, we also changed our supplier terms, which were 30 days from the end of the month to 5 days to get funds to our suppliers quicker than what we originally agreed. Like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype webinars, whichever one you use, we have, very much over the last 12 months used those a lot. And certainly BOI has been no different in terms of delivering sector-specific content to certain sectors such as hospitality, health, retail, food and drink, and technology customers. I suppose over the last year, working with business owners to put in place suitable funding solutions has been our primary work during the lockdown. A lot of businesses have obviously struggled. So in the early days, it was obviously very difficult from all points of view, to be perfectly honest. An almost impossible task, really, as we didn't know how long doors were going to be closed and shutters would be down. So obviously the payment breaks assisted with that, and gave a lot of people, breathing space. Thankfully, with the vaccine program being rolled out now, we have some light at the end of the tunnel, which is something to be very thankful for. I suppose a lot of what we do is looking at cash flow modeling, and it's still key for people. And there's certain things that businesses need to consider, such as one of the main concerns early on would have been debtor collection. How would collection of fees and what have you, how would that be impacted? Would it slow down a lot? Would you actually be paid? What we've found actually is in general that people have been quite good at that, in that historically it may not have been that proactive in debt collection, but they've really pulled out all the stops to get that. But also their debtors have actually paid on time, and haven't dragged their heels with regards to paying those. We also think people should be looking at, trade creditor payment strategies. So there's a lot of support out there with regards to warehousing, tax. A lot of people have come to arrangements with landlords, that type of thing. So it's to have a look at that strategy, but also to see what the impact will be further down the line. Because obviously, although there's a deferment, these people will need to be paid. A lot of cash flow has gone into comply with HSE guidelines, depending on what sector you're actually in. But obviously, if you're in retail or in, say, restaurants, that type of thing, that there would have been quite a heavy investment into some of those, into some of the stuff that you require to be in line with HSE guidelines.
So,
Staff
Darren,
retention.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what are you
That's
seeing
right.
for professional service firms, or what sort of stuff are they looking at the moment, or what are the factors influencing them?
Yeah, I suppose initially at the moment initially it was to put in short-term working capital facilities. Obviously, as I said before, there was a real, I suppose, worry about debtor collection, that type of thing. So a lot of what we did with our professional services firms were put in short-term overdraft facilities, in conjunction with, say, cash flow models over the next 3 to 6 months. As I said, thankfully, if I was to speak to 90% of my clients, the cash flow is actually better, much better than they originally anticipated. With regards to, most people are working from home, but a lot of the professional services teams would have people on the ground as well, especially on the legal side as well. They have to get into the office every so often. That would have been the main aspect for them, to be perfectly honest. And as I said, they've sort of cut costs as well. A lot of partners and what have you or owners would have been reducing their distributions as well, obviously to soften the impact on cash flow. So it's just in general try to reduce the costs. And what we've seen is that turnover may have gone down, but costs have gone down as well, in general. So the overall impact on a lot of customers hasn't been as severe as they would have thought. But again, it comes down to cash flow.
And are Bank of Ireland in a position to offer professional service firms short-term financing, or?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, as I said before, a lot of the initial, outside of the payment breaks, which, I'd be interested in people's feedback, but from my point of view, as I said, I've been banking a long while. It was relatively straightforward. You just had to confirm a few aspects, and then we really put it in place. But outside of that, as I said, for working capital, we would have put in temporary overdrafts, and I suppose that would have then been overtaken by some of the Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland finance that's available, which we're a part of. And they can be used to finance any sort of COVID-19 related costs that were incurred, which I can go through soon. But I mean, definitely, it's about, from our point of view, it's about knowing a business. It's about knowing, the strategy behind the cash collection, the debt collection, the impact it has on the creditors, that type of thing. So, I mean, the more information we have, the more informed we are. And it just makes someone like me, it's just a lot easier for us to go through the process and get it approved. It's a lot quicker. So,
and do you have any advice to small practitioners? Because, with the sort of advent of maybe the banks themselves on the retail side, they're not open, or they're open with less customer service people involved. How do you establish a relationship? There's a big move to online banking, etc. So it can be hard sometimes to build a relationship with the bank. Do you have any sort of tips around that?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, and to be perfectly honest, it's a question that the banks would struggle with as well, because we obviously want to keep a relationship with our clients. But, something like 97, 98% of our transactions are online now, or via mobile. I work in College Green, which is one of the largest branches. You walk around in a normal course event, you walk around College Green, and the number of customers actually using the actual banking hall is very low. In fact, you're probably more likely to see people, having a tour of the building, given its historic nature. So there is that, and I suppose we sort of have, on the business side anyway, we have sort of various different streams. So I suppose on the small practice side, it's with the local branches and with business advisors within those branches. What we've also done over the last while is to invest heavily in our technology. We've spent a huge amount of money, which we're just starting to see the fruits of that now, to be perfectly honest. But it allows people to apply for finance very quickly, either over the phone or online, up to a certain amount. Over those amounts, it tends to come to people like myself, and that's where I suppose you can have a more of a sort of a day-to-day relationship with people. But I mean, ultimately, I think Bank of Ireland likes to see itself as a relationship bank, but there's no doubting that the banking has changed fundamentally, even over the last 10 to 15 years, with regards to how products and services are rolled out to customers. But we are very keen to develop those relationships with clients.
Yeah. So do you want to talk us through some of the offerings at the moment, both the Law Society member benefits, which are kind of
sure,
the professional indemnity insurance and practicing, and how does that work, and how might you apply, and then maybe some of the other ones?
Yeah, so I suppose again, we've obviously partnered with the Law Society to give some exclusive discounted rates for members. So I mean, these are primarily for if you want to finance your, for practicing certs, professional indemnity insurance, or tax loans. So we provide them on up to an 11-month period. So they're just on a straight payment basis over 11 months.
And is that on a preferential interest rate?
It is. It is preferential. It's a discounted variable rate. So it's lower than what would be in normal course events for other clients. So I mean, with regards to applying, really it depends on the amount, but it's via your local branch or your local business advisor, and you can do it online as well. There's also a telephone number on there, 1890 365 222, and they'll take you through the application process. And I mean, should be a very slick process now, and we should get an approval within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So as a bank, we're well used to doing these type of loans for professional services. So I mean, it's I suppose it's not a niche for us, but we're well used to doing it. So it's something that we look at on a regular basis.
And is it the loan tied to, it can only be professional indemnity insurance or a practicing certificate, or are there other allowable application?
Well, I suppose this particular offering is geared towards those type of expenses because they're more short-term expenses. So obviously, if you're looking at your PI cover or your tax, it's to be payable over a shorter period than, say, maybe a capital expenditure in the business or something like that. So this particular offering is for those type of payments.
Okay. So will I move on to the next slide then?
Yeah, please do. Yeah. So what I'd like to do is just go through two main schemes that we use in conjunction with the SBCI. So the first one is the COVID-19 Working Capital Loan Scheme, and the second is the COVID-19 Credit Guarantee Scheme.
So just to give a bit of background, these were schemes set up by the government to give Bank of Ireland a guarantee, not the individual a guarantee, and allows you to give out loans along specific requirements.
I suppose if you just click onto the next slide there, Justin, I suppose it's to support additional lending to micro SMEs, small caps. I mean, fundamentally, they have to be viable businesses. but they're vulnerable due to the impact of COVID-19. And I think that's the key here when we look at these particular facilities, in that it has to be a viable business. But there could be certain impacts on COVID-19. So it's designed to support the provision of finance to businesses. And what happens is the government provides the bank with an 80% state guarantee on the finance provided to eligible businesses. So I suppose that gives the bank comfort as well. Like if you flick back, as I said, there's two particular schemes. Now, the one we're finding is the most popular at the moment is the credit guarantee scheme, the bottom one, and purely because it's a longer repayment term. So the top one you'll see, the working capital loan, it's 1 to 3 years. So really, I suppose that was brought in, as I said before, people were using temporary increases in overdrafts. They may have built up certain bills because of COVID-19. So we would expect those to wash out over a shorter period of time. So there's that particular one. I mean, they're both 80% guaranteed. The rates are slightly different. It's 4% on the COVID-19 working capital loan. But as you can see, you can use it for working capital, cash flow issues, restocking the business, capital investment in the business to make it COVID-proof, that type of thing. The COVID-19 credit guarantee scheme is up to $1 million, and it can be repaid up to 5.5 years. And as you can see, the rates there are 2.78 and 2.6, depending on the amount that you're borrowing. I mean, the one key difference there is a guarantee premium also payable to the SBCI. It's not a cost to the bank. We just purely collect it and pass it on to the SBCI. So again, you can use that for funding working capital, including liquidity needs. So again, what a lot of I've seen is that some of our customers would have put temporary increases in place. They're now seeing data collection increase and cash flow coming in, but it's just it's taken longer than they originally anticipated, and we don't want to keep it on overdraft because if you're in overdraft all the time, it's obviously an expensive way of borrowing. So what we're looking to do is put it out over a longer term to ease the cash flow generally for the business. They're the two main schemes. So if you flick back onto the next,
do these apply to small practice professional firms?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I mean, seen use them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's subject to certain eligibility rules, and you have to, certainly for the credit guarantee scheme, there's a declaration you have to sign. You have to meet certain criteria. But yeah, I mean, they're there to assist all types of sectors within Ireland. So the credit guarantee scheme that's the bulk of what we have been using over the last year, I suppose, because it's available. There's the 80% guarantee, and it's really what it's there for. It's to facilitate the giving of finance.
Okay. And what are some of the eligibility, or how do you apply for these?
You can apply depending on the amount that you're looking for. If you roll through there a couple of screens, Justin, the next one. So I mean, loans up to 120,000 is via the BOI website, and you have to upload documentation there. If it's higher than that, up to 500,000, you go through your local branch. You have business advisors there, and if it's over 500,000 up to $1 million, it's someone like myself. So if you're at that sort of level, you'll have a relationship manager anyway, so you can speak to them. As I said, you need to check the eligibility. It's really down to turnover. It's whether your potential turnover profit is reduced by at least 15% due to the impact of COVID-19. You also have to be able to state that you weren't in financial difficulty on the 31st of December 2019. So basically prior to COVID, that you're a sound business, and that you can return to viability in the future. Because look, we're not naive. I mean, every single business has been impacted by COVID-19. So, 2020 financial accounts are going to look very different to the 2019. But fundamentally, if it's a viable business and prior to COVID, then you will get the support of the banks and the SBCI on those.
And you talk about documentation there, like, what is that? Is that a business plan? Is it an application form? Is it a set of accounts?
Yeah, I mean, typically what we would look for is at least the 2019 accounts and some up-to-date management accounts. And we've discussed those with the client. I mean, I think if you read the terms and conditions, it does say you have to provide a business plan. It depends on what sector you're in. To be perfectly honest, there's no point asking a pub for a business plan with cash flows for the next 6 months because we know they're going to be closed. Whereas if it's a professional services firm, we probably would ask for cash flows just to show that, what we expect the cash collection to be like over the next number of months. We'd also need to understand the creditor position with regards to any deferred creditors, any tax warehousing, that type of thing. But ultimately, it's just providing as much information as possible. We try not to be too onerous on it, to be perfectly honest, because we're well aware that it's a difficult time for all businesses. But we just need to understand, I suppose, the cash flow of the business.
And loans up to 120,000, you apply online, and anything over that, you go to your branch. And if it's over 500,000,
and anything over 500,000 is to someone like myself. And it's a smooth enough process on the website as well. So which is great, to be perfectly honest.
Is there personal guarantees looked for in these types of situations, or does it depend?
There can be. It's 80% guaranteed by the government, obviously. Now, if we're lending to a sole practitioner or a partnership, it's recourse anyway. So we'd have recourse for the 20%. If it's a limited company, we may look for a guarantee up to the 20% that the person may be liable for. It's taken on a case-by-case basis, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, the overriding point of this is that there is an 80% guarantee from the state guarantee. So that's where we should derive our comfort from, and I suppose the performance of the business. That's where we should. I mean, as I said before, like we have that sometimes there is a general perception because it's guaranteed by the state that it's a rubber stamp tick box sort of exercise. It's not. Part of the process or the agreement that we have with the SBCI is that any loans that we provide under these schemes has to meet certain criteria, has to hold up against our lending criteria. So again, it's we're not going to lend to a business that wasn't financially viable prior to 2019.
Yeah, like there has to be a viable business in theory. So it's you're not just handing out loans for the sake of handing out loans.
No, I think, as I said, the perception sometimes is that people this is here to assist businesses, which it is, but it is subject to an approval basis. So we have to go through that process. As I said, we try and make that as painless as possible. So I suppose they're the two main schemes that we operate in conjunction with all the traditional banking facilities that we offer, overdrafts, term loans, invoice discounting, there's asset finance as well. So, I mean, obviously as a bank like Bank of Ireland, we provide the whole suite of products for our customers. But over the last 12 months, this has been the bulk of what we've been looking at for a lot of our SMEs, purely because it's there and it's available. I think it's available until we're fully subscribed or until June, which is ever earlier. No, it was December, but they obviously extended it further. So, I mean, these schemes are actually available through other financial institutions as well. We all take an allocation. Obviously, Bank of Ireland being one of the pillar banks, we have a larger allocation than some of the smaller finance providers. So
if anyone has a question out there that you want to ask Darren, we'll take them now. We're just coming up to like 24 minutes past 1, so we just have five minutes left. So Darren, are you finished with is there anything else you want to add? Or?
No, the only thing I'd say is like just recapping in that we are here to assist clients. We know how difficult it is. The key, I think, from the client perspective, is to keep track of cash flow. engaging early with the bank if you feel there is going to be an issue. We're still open for business. We're still lending for investment, that type of thing as well. But no, I mean, that's it really. It's just really to go through those particular schemes, and more than happy to take any questions either on these or other aspects of banking. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So just to give a brief summary, so there's the Law Society Finance Scheme for PII and practicing certificates, which is at a discounted rate, and then there's these other wider SBCI working finance loans available, and we'll share the slides with people later with the recording. And if they've any query, what should somebody do if they want to make an application? Is it up to 120,000? You just go online and it's all available, or should they go into the branch?
You can do either. Like the branches are open. Banking has been deemed an essential service, so all our branches, or most of our branches, are open. So they can, if you feel more comfortable speaking to someone, you can either do that in branch or over the telephone. But we also provide it online. So it's probably the easiest way of doing it, if you're comfortable doing it that way, is online. And obviously, depending on the amount, you can either speak to the branch or your relationship manager. They'd be more than happy to take it forward.
So there's your disclaimer. So is there anything of note in there other than?
No, there's nothing. I don't think so anyway. No, it's just the standard disclaimer.
So I'll just put up there a few Law Society supports there available. So there's the financial benefits, the which is in reference to what we were talking about today, the Small Practice Hub, which is a suite of different services that are offered. Practice Notes, which is just latest information that I suggest people just to make people aware of. Other member benefits, and then some of the newsletters that are coming up. So I'll just talk a little bit about our future information sessions. So next week we're joined by Dr. Tony Bates and Judy Breen, which is the professional well-being. So Dr. Tony Bates is apparently a regular on RT, talking about just mental health issues. So, and then later on in March, then we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. So we've in conjunction with the technology committee, we've got 3 sessions there on different types of cybersecurity issues faced by small practitioners, risk management, risk to client funds, and then Brian Sweeney from Key House. So if anybody wants to register or join us for them, they're more than welcome. So Darren, we don't seem to have a huge amount of people looking to chat with you today. So
okay, that's fine.
So thanks very much for your time today. And
no
if anybody would like to get in touch, ask us any other questions, you can email me here around either this session or future sessions. We'll send out a recording to everyone later in the week along with the slides. But Darren, do you have anything else to add, or?
No, just thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. As I said, we are here to support our clients. So please do contact either your branch, business advisor, or your relationship manager, even if it's just to discuss, something small or that type of thing. So we're here to assist. There's a lot of tools or supports that are available, not just from the banking side, but outside of that as well. So I think that's the one key aspect when you compare it to the back to 2008 to 2011, 12. There's a lot more supports available for small businesses now, which is great to see.
Great. So Darren, thanks for your time, and thanks for giving us that update, and we'll talk to you again soon. So everybody, thanks very much for coming along today, and hopefully we'll see you next week, where we're joined by Judy Breen and Tony Bates, Dr. Tony Bates, and so Slán.